A mesmerizing butterfly flaps its wings and wafts through the air, showing vibrant colors from its scales, which arises from the underneath nanostructure. The nanovilli-like structure present on the surface of the lotus leaf enable water droplets to slide over the surface, overcoming the gravity, thus making the lotus leaf unusually hydrophobic. The panoply of splendid colors in the plumage of peacock arises from the inconspicuous nanostructures beneath. Well, these are evolution-driven natural nanomaterials which exhibit improbable characteristics. On the other hand, the million colors emanated by our LED TV represents the modern wonders of engineered nanomaterials. As a matter of fact, nanomaterials, a hot topic in science, drives future innovation with their unforeseen phenomena and enable the miniaturization of devices to the point of vanishing. For instance, the LEDs in display, which were once sized around millimeter, were now reduced to nanometer in the modern LED TVs. The nanomaterials show exotic property depending on their size, shape, and morphology. As a result, they are widely used in the industry, ranging from modern batteries to the catalyst materials. Synthesizing the nanoparticle seems quite an easy task, but studying them is much more difficult due to their small size. Differentiating the nanoparticle from other form of the materials is itself an difficult task. Establishing the size of nanoparticle is even more difficult one. The most apparent signature of nanomaterial is the peak broadening in the X-ray diffraction pattern. Understanding the origin of such peak broadening in crystals provide us an intuitive understanding of the nanomaterials. Over the years, humans understood by experience that periodic structures are the way to increase their stability. Based on that, our ancestors built great pyramids and cathedrals which are everlasting. Long before that, nature understood that periodic arrangement of bones to form a chest cavity is a way to ensure the safety of vital organs during the period of evolution. The very first periodic arrangements happened in crystals that increased their strength drastically compared to aperiodic biological materials. As a result, crystals are very hard to melt. For instance, you can melt the amorphous candle easily than the periodic crystal calcium carbonate, which is nothing but the chalk. A crystal is a periodic repetition of atoms in whatever direction we travel. Each repetition is called a unit cell and its size is roughly 3 to 5 angstrom. The directions we travel are called planes. For example, traveling along the x direction is called 100 plane. Similarly, traveling along face diagonal is called 110 plane. And so, traveling along the body diagonal is called 111 planes. In the crystal, as the atomic arrangement looks different in each plane, the physical properties like electrical conduction and optical transmission depends on the direction. For instance, the ruby crystal shows slightly different red color when we look at it in different angle. Therefore, to use crystals appropriately like measuring the Earth magnetic field, we need to understand the crystal structure of silicon semiconducting sensor. Now, the concept of X-ray diffraction comes into the picture. X-ray diffraction is a tool to probe the crystal as their wavelength is equivalent to the atomic distances. When we shine X-rays on the crystal, they are scattered from these periodically arranged atoms. These scattered X-ray beams are deflected at an angle, interfere positively at some distance and glow. They are recorded at various angles by moving the beam and the detector. The diffracted X-ray show peak intensity when recorded at particular angles. For all other angles, they do not interfere positively, thus do not glow. Therefore, one crystal will give rise to only one intensity peak when the detector is swept along the radial direction, subjected to the famous condition called Bragg's law, which is given by 2a sin theta is equal to n lambda. Thus, the angle at which crystal diffracts depends on the size of the unit cell A. As the unit cell A increases, the X-ray diffraction peak drift to lower angle as theta is inversely proportional to A. In spite of the fact that crystals can be grown to any length, in practice it is very difficult to grow crystals as it is a painfully slow process. It takes from days to months, sometimes even years, to make a good single crystal. The world's longest crystals are naturally formed one, and it is of length 12 meters. Well, even our human body too produce crystals. For example, the kidney stone, which is of size 5 mm, is an agglomeration of several tiny crystals of 10 micrometer. Generally, it will be easier to produce crystals in the powder form of micron size and are called microcrystals. If we grow even tiny crystals, they are called nanocrystals. In powder, there are several crystals, each of them orient in different direction. As a result, few crystals of different orientation were aligned to the X-ray beam. Thus, the diffracted beam gives rise to several peaks in XRD pattern corresponding to different orientation. In powder, the microcrystal will be of the size of 10 microns, whereas nanocrystal will be in the order of 10 nanometer. As the unit cell size is only 0.5 nanometer, a microcrystal consists of 20,000 unit cells. On the other hand, a nanocrystal contains only 20 unit cells. Let's consider fruits. All fruits have skin with characteristics different than their cores to protect them. Apple has a uniform core white pulp surrounded by the outer reddish skin of different material. The surfaces of crystals are also slightly different from their cores. As crystals have only one material, their surface is also formed of same material but slightly different. During the formation of crystals, the atom inside core of the material is subjected to uniform pressure, thus having same unit cell size. As we reach the surface, there will be no other atom surrounding in it, thus subjected to less pressure. As a result, the unit cell size increases as we move towards the surface and it becomes A plus delta A. The angle at which the X-ray deflect also changes to theta plus delta theta, which manifests as peak broadening in X-ray diffraction pattern. If peak broadening is just a characteristic of a surface, then both microcrystal and nanocrystal should show peak broadening as both have surfaces. But what we observe is a pronounced peak broadening only in nanocrystals.